So this is how to change or remove the ABS servo system from a BMW K1200rs. This is a 2003 model. This is the ABS unit here. So you can see it's the ABS 3 unit. Now this servo has actually been damaged, been tested, we've flushed the system, we've checked the battery coil. I've actually just disconnected the rear servo. So I've taken off this pipe here and this pipe here, which actually originally sat in there and there on the clamp mount, and I've connected the servo. You can see the rear brake servo coming up into the servo unit. This is the reservoir, coming from the reservoir, and I've now actually connected the servo through, up, in, and now connected up into this one. This one will not fit it. You've got to use the back one, and then directly connected that, which was already connected up, straight back to the brake line. And this hasn't been bled yet, so you can see there's no pressure on the brake line, so we'll bleed this next, and we'll come back. The next job I will be doing is the front. So you can see here is the two front servos. So this goes down to the front, right down into the front brakes to the splitter, and this one comes from the top. You can see it coming up to this reservoir here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this nut here, this valve into here, and then screw that back on. So I've already taken this one off. There's just a little hex screw in there, and then that will free these lines up. As you can see, it goes down into the ABS unit, and then the ABS unit will effectively be We've removed the two pipes, connected it up to the top one, so this is just to sit like that. Bottom one's useless, the top one's very useful, so the one with a little clip on it is the one you don't want, because it'll only fit in the one. Double check to make sure it's tight when you squeeze the handle, like so. You shouldn't see any fluid leaking out from that connection. You see it does flex a little bit, so I'm going to attach that. I haven't worked out where yet, because we haven't got a lot of room to play with. Maybe up into that mount point there, but that's the next strut, so I'm not really all that thrilled about that. But we'll come back in a sec. Here, right down here is the bolt for the ABS unit removal, so we're now trying to remove the actual unit itself out, and then we'll take. Already hate the Germans at this stage in the thing. There are two little torque screws sitting at the back of this unit that hold the whole thing in place. You can see the little bracket there, this one here, and it's a E8 star head torque setting. Now that tool cost me $38, but still didn't work. So what I ended up having to do is actually chisel off the bracket there, and you can see so I'm going to tidy that up. But that's the ABS unit, FTE branded ABS unit. Now what I'm going to try and do now is drill out these little one-way nuts. Take this control module off the top, and that should, all things being equal, give me access to my control module, speedo, brakes, and so on. Come back in a bit. Out the 4 bolts from the top, taking this out, unplugged all of these cables. So there's 2 down the back. They just pull out. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to put any too much force. And then I've disconnected these ribbon connectors from the module end. So now I'm going to build a small case just to sit around the front, so protect it. Fill up these 2 little well holes on the side, and then that should plug straight back into the module. ABS system. You can see the inlet valve down the bottom. So these two from the reservoir, and this is where all the cables come in, all the pipes come in. And then on the back we've got our two servos. So even if you wanted to rebuild these, you've got these one-way screws. You'd have to drill them all out, pull the whole thing apart. Pretty much a waste of effort. I suspect that this is the one that's actually playing on, because in mine it was only the front servo that was playing up, not the back one. So you can see the markings on there. And that's pretty much as it came out. All this damage was actually already there, so I don't know whether somebody's had this out before or not. But either way, it's all that's the culprit. A really bad design BMW part. You know, why BMW would sully their name with such an incredibly bad part. But it was, I suppose, the early days of ABS. Here's the module, and didn't bother building the box. What I did was taped it up with some really strong gaffer tape. Actually cold it nice and sealed. Placed the module back in, then zip tied it back into the brackets to try and stop it from moving around too much. Now over on the other side, so here I've actually zip tied the bracket up to the top. I'm not really happy with it. I'd rather probably cut that off. And then I've attached the pillion passenger thing, and then zip tied this back into its seal. Also, another point, I actually the reservoir from the main to the back, I've actually looped into itself, so we can probably see that better from in here. So that means those two sensors up the top, so you can see that just in here. Hello. And fill the top reservoir. That basically means that it'll draw from both at some point. It's this crimp on the front. I've zip tied that to the swing arm, or the control up the top. There you can see that zip tied up the top. And that sounds pretty. I still think that's leaving, so I'm going to need to get another crush washer on that one, I think, at some point. I'll give you a little tip on how to bleed these things. So this is just a standard air tube for a fish tank. And what I've got is about 2 meters of it. I've attached it to there, forced it on with some long nose pliers onto the bleeding nipple, up over the back of the indicator, and then into a reservoir. And what I can see is I can see the air bubbles coming up, and I can do it all myself just by pressing down on the brake pedal. Worth pointing out that that's all the brake fluid that I use to flush. Then 200 mils of the .4 with the ABS system. I was going through about 1 litre to 2 litres just to bleed the thing. So this was from empty. You can see my reservoir's got a fair amount of fluid in now. It's just over minimum, so I'll fill that up, and then that's the back brake done. This little trick for the uninitiated, if you haven't been on the BMW side, there's a coin in the reservoir there. Just covers over that little hole, and it stops brake fluid from squirting all over your brake. It's a great idea, but do remember to remove the 10-cent piece before you go out on the bike. And you can see that the hose is attached, it's looping itself up and over the arm bracket, and then back down into the reservoir. And that way I can bleed by myself, squeezing the handle, and bleeding without speed breeders. If you've got speed bleeders, they are by far the better option, but this is a way you can do it for next to nothing. A little bit of air hose from the fish shop.